How's it going? Oh man, I probably shocked a few people there. How are you guys doing? I hope you are having a wonderful, what is it, Thursday? Wonderful Thursday. Man, things are all messed up for me today. There was obviously no morning video. I'm pretty positive Prime News isn't going to happen today either. I know, I'm sorry. I wanted to get everything on a regular schedule starting this week, which was already a little messed up because of Memorial Day, but some family stuff is kind of spilled over the last couple of days. That's why we reacted to the Nintendo Direct late yesterday. We didn't have our noon stream like I planned or the pre-show and all that stuff. So things have just been kind of crazy. But I'm still here for this noon live stream. That's still happening. I might still have a standalone video coming out later today. It just won't be a Prime News. I know it sucks. I think it's best for me to kind of hit refresh on this week and start fresh starting next week. That doesn't mean I'm not going to. Yeah, actually, it does mean I'm not going to do a Prime News tomorrow either. We're just going to kind of let this week kind of wash away. I won't be doing a noon live stream tomorrow either. I will get at least a single video out tomorrow, but the live stream is going to be kaput as well. I just have a lot of family stuff going on. It's been insane. I got my Eric's sister's weddings coming up this weekend, and things are just going nuts. So that just sucks, but that's life. I'm still recording an episode of the podcast tonight with 5J. It's just going to be me and 5J. Eric is busy with wedding preparations for his sister, so that's just kind of what's happening. So I apologize because I know I wanted to kind of get things going this week, but I guess next week will be when we finally get everything into full tilt, barring any additional family emergency stuff happening, which I don't foresee being a problem after this week, but you never know, right? Family always comes first. But hey, we're still back making more content than we were before, so let's just keep it going, even if this ends up being the only thing today, although, as I said, I still plan to standalone video later. Let me say hi to everyone in the chat. Alex Boyer's here, Mark Buhager, Owen Brewster, Dante Bush, let's see here, Dynamic Kirby is here as well. Be Righteous is here as well. Nice to see you, Be Righteous, at a day stream here. Let's see here. Anyone over on... I don't think we have anyone watching on Mixer. There's one person watching on Mixer, but no one's actually saying anything. All right. Joe Prosco is here as well. So he's just going to be listening because he's working. I totally understand that. All right, so thank you guys so much for tuning in to our... what's going to eventually be a Monday through Friday noon stream time. Again, work in progress here as we get back into things with all the family stuff. But it's okay, right? You're getting kind of a taste of some things this week, and then hopefully next week it's all regular Monday through Friday. Plus, there will be a Nintendo Direct next week, as far as I'm aware, to throw everything in a tailspin. So, yeah, so let's talk about that Direct, shall we? So now that I've had, been able to sleep on it and think about it, I really liked the Nintendo Direct. I understand it's not going to be for everyone. I don't think there's ever a Direct that satisfies everyone. It was not a surprising Direct. Like, there wasn't a ton of surprises in it, and that's not just because, like, Assassin's Creed 4 and Overwatch leaked ahead of time. Like, I still wouldn't even think those are huge gets for Switch. I think those are expected gets at this point. At least they should be expected. Like if they ever announce Grand Theft Auto 5 for Switch, I just expect it to be there at this point. I don't really think it's this huge deal. I think a huge deal would be something like the latest Call of Duty being announced for the system, or the next Assassin's Creed coming to Switch. Things like old games getting ported to Switch at this point. That's just what Switch gets. Switch gets all old ports all the time. So there isn't really anything that surprises me, especially now that The Witcher 3, like that was like the one port that really shocked me. But now that we have that, I mean Red Dead Redemption and anything else just wouldn't like surprise me if it was on Switch. So I'm kind of dumb being surprised by announcements like that. So this Direct for surprises was a little boring. I think the biggest surprise was Banjo-Kazooie being dropped. I know it was being kind of talked about as potentially being a shadow drop, but that being dropped yesterday. And I mean even the SNES games, we knew they were coming at some point. We're on the year anniversary of the paid subscriptions, so it kind of looks like every year maybe they'll add a new system. I don't know. I think that's lame, but some people are going to be really excited about the SNES games. I just don't care. It's not enough. Okay, cool. They added 20 SNES games. That's great. Still doesn't make up for the fact that we're going to get like 2 games a month every month until a year from now when they drop a new system. I still don't think that really makes the Nintendo Switch Online service that much better. It also helps that I think, when you call something an online service, the online services part should be the focus, not the free retro library, which isn't free because you pay to access it. I think that should be its own thing. I honestly think it should be separated out and be its own subscription service, but whatever. Let's talk a little bit about maybe the one thing that did surprise me, that new Kirby Clash game. Is it even new? I just asked this seriously. Some people in the chat while I was streaming, I was going back through it, were saying that it's basically a port of a 3DS game. So I wonder if that Kirby Clash game that Shadow dropped yesterday, is that even like a new game? Or is it just, HDing of a 3DS game? I'm not 100% sure. And that was kind of it for like the surprises. Everything else I kind of saw coming. Even, when you talk about Xenoblade Chronicles being remastered or whatever, it's just being put in HD. And it might have some of the cut content, put in it or something. I don't really think it's... I think it's a great game to get, and I'm excited we're getting the definitive edition of Xenoblade Chronicles. But I mean, after the success of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 being the best-selling game in the series, did anyone expect Nintendo not to put Xenoblade Chronicles on Switch? So, again, it's another kind of expected move. And what's happening, I guess, is that I'm almost spoiled as a Nintendo Switch owner, or prior owner, future owner, once I get a new Switch. I'm kind of spoiled because, if these announcements had happened like on Wii U, I would have been like jumping for joy. But we get so many games on Switch now that it's kind of like, I just kind of expect these things to exist. The shocker would be if they didn't come to Switch. Like, if we didn't get Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I mean, someone mentioned that, Doom 64 was a surprise, but was it? It was leaked. It literally got leaked by Bethesda, like, over a month ago. So we knew Doom 64 was coming to Switch. We already knew it. It was already accidentally leaked by Bethesda. So I wasn't surprised by it yesterday. Like, we already knew. The surprise was a week ago or a month ago. And even then, is it that surprising after we just got Doom 1, 2, and 3 on Switch? Like, of course we're getting Doom 64. We got Doom 1, 2, and 3. And we have the Doom 2016. And we're getting Doom Eternal. So, like, okay, Doom 64 is kind of an obvious thing to bring over at this point. So even if we didn't know about Doom 64, it shouldn't be surprising because we got everything else Doom. Like, every Doom game in the world's on Switch. So, like, it's not really a shocker to me. The shocker would be if Switch didn't get it, So we're kind of getting to that point where the biggest shock is if an old game doesn't come to Switch rather than an old game coming to the Switch platform. I think it's going to be interesting to see how this is reflected in the future because I think I'm not the only one like this. It's kind of ready for new. As much as I love all these old ports coming over, especially for a Nintendo fan base that maybe didn't play some of these games, I'm ready for like new games. I'm not disappointed with the Direct because the Direct was exactly what I expected, but I'm ready to start seeing, hey, let's get some surprise new announcements. The Outer Worlds is an example. When that was announced, that was a new announcement. That game's not out yet for anyone. Yeah, it's coming to Switch later, but at least it's a new game. But that was already announced before this Direct, so that's not really a huge deal from the Direct. So I'm just kind of ready to start seeing some new third-party games announced. Nintendo, they're killing it. I mean, can we ask any more from Nintendo at this point? Obviously, we want better online service stuff, messaging friends, achievements, all that things. Obviously, we'd like to see more games added quicker to their free service, with the SNES and the NES and all that. But beyond all that, like just from a game production perspective, just from here are the games Nintendo is publishing on Switch, they're killing it. Switch is getting so many games from now, really from June. with Mario Maker 2 through the rest of this year, even the beginning of next year. We have a great start in the first 2 months with one exclusive game and then one port of a really good game in Tokyo Mirage Sessions coming in January, and then we get hit in March with Animal Crossing. We don't know, what big game it's going to be in February, but Nintendo's giving us almost a big game a month again. And this month we got several big games, including a port, or an HD remastering, I guess, of Link's Awakening. We have Daemon X Machina here in, a week, basically, 1 week and a day, so 8 days from now. We have Daemon X Machina to look forward to. We get Dragon Quest XI-S landing this month. I know it's not Nintendo published, but it's still a big game. I'm just, I'm kind of in content overload now that what will excite me in a Direct are new games, not ports, but new games. And I don't know when we're going to get a Direct that shows me a bunch of new non-first party or second party Nintendo games. But hey, Astral Chain's killing it. I'm hoping Daemon X Machina does all right. There's a new demo out for it, so that's kind of cool. They did exactly what I told them to do. I said, hey, we need another demo of this game because if all these improvements are happening, people might be willing to give it a second chance if there's a demo. I haven't played the demo yet, so I don't know. I don't have any impressions on it, but I'm hearing good things from the demo, so it sounds like they listened, especially on the performance front with frame rate. That was a big issue in the first demo. If that's smoothed out now, that might put some confidence back in the full game. But Luigi's Mansion 3 continues to look like... Sorry, I'm still battling it cold. Whew! Luigi's Mansion 3 continues to look like my game of the year. Every time they show up Luigi's Mansion 3, I fall in love even more. Did we learn really much new? There's a shark ghost. I learned that. That was new. Didn't really learn much new about Luigi's Mansion 3 we didn't already know. But damn, does that game look good. And I need that game in my possession right now. Luigi's Mansion 3, I'm standing by it until I play all these games and can make the decision definitive. But right now, based on my hands-on gameplay at E3, based on my hype levels, based on everything I have played and touched and seen this year, Luigi's Mansion 3 is probably going to be my game of the year. Period. But again, I have a lot of games to get through. Play Astral Chain, Daemon X Machina. I got lots of games to get through this year before I can definitively make that decision. Obviously, we have Pokemon as well. But I'm strongly leaning already. Pre-biased notion based on my own little experience with the game. Luigi's Mansion 3. Anyways. Man. So, I like the Direct. It's what I expected. It wasn't surprising. And it's, it felt like, I think Beat 'em Ups put up a video today on this. It felt like one of the most unnecessary Directs that we've had. And it feels weird saying that. But all these things that we already knew or could have been announced in another way. Like Overwatch could have been announced on its own randomly one day without a Direct, right? So a lot of the big stuff in the Direct is kind of like, well, do we need a Direct for that? But it was nice to have. It was a nice to have Direct. I'm glad we had it. It just felt like a Direct of, hey, it's a bunch of stuff we already know about, so here you go. And even the stuff you don't know about, it's not as big a deal to necessarily need a Direct for, but it's nice. So it was nice. It was just a nice to have Direct rather than a Direct that has me like, it's all done. Oh my gosh, I'm so pumped. Everything is so, like, yeah, I'm pumped for everything, but I was already pumped for this stuff. So I'm not like more pumped because the Direct happened, if that makes any sense. Let's see what some of you guys in the chat are saying. Check over on the old Mixer first. We don't have anyone chatting over there, so back to YouTube. Let's see here. Some people said they should have announced Fallout. Obviously, they didn't. There was no Fallout news. Anthrazil Warrior 3. So what happened to your Switch? Lost, sold. So after I had my heart attack, I had some medical bills and stuff, and I had to sell everything I possibly could get my hands on to pay for stuff, and my Switch was one of the casualties. I plan to... It helps that I had some confidence in selling it, knowing that I really want that extended battery life Switch, so I kind of wanted to get a new Switch anyways. But when I'm going to be able to afford that new Switch, I have no idea. That's kind of the big... hey, when can I actually afford that new Switch? I don't know. Whenever I can, I guess. I'm not like doing a fundraiser and donation thing to try to buy me a new Switch. I don't think that's fair to do. I think that's kind of a pretty scummy thing to do because I sold my Switch. So why would I make you guys buy me a new one? That makes no sense. Whenever I make enough money and I have enough money, I will buy another one. Let's see here. Pikmin 4, better internet, Switch Pro, Zelda Maker. Oh, are you talking about things that you wanted to see? Nate said, I'm so glad I wasn't really interested in any of the games that we didn't already know about because my wallet is hurting. Yeah, there's so many games coming out. Let's see here. Beat Righteous looks like he's excited as well for Luigi's Mansion 3. Dude, Luigi's Mansion 3! Oh, I can't wait. They showed Luigi's Mansion 3 too much. They're just spoiling it. I mean, we didn't really see anything new. There's a couple new things, but I'm telling you, having played the E3 demo, there is so much in each room in this game that they've probably shown off maybe 1/28th of what is in Luigi's Mansion 3. So you think they're showing too much, but you have no idea how much is in this game. Like, it is so packed to the brim that literally it would take them years to advertise it all. So I wouldn't worry so much that they're showing too much, because showing too much means that you know how much is already there, and I'm telling you, there's a lot more than you realize. Let's see here. No, it's just obviously my personal opinion. You can disagree, and my fiance is calling me because of course she is. I'm streaming. She has to call. 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. We're getting our youngest put into 4K, so I had some questions to answer. Let's see here. Let's see what some other people were saying in the chat. I don't know what ruined my sleep. It was 12 p.m. in Poland, I bet. I think in all honesty, this year is now so good that we fail to appreciate this direct as much as we would have otherwise. I don't know that there's a failure to appreciate the direct. I think it's one of those things where so much of the direct was stuff we already knew about that all it was just retreading everything we already know. It was like a summary direct, right? Like, it'd be different because what we've grown accustomed to not having this amount of games coming out. So every direct was chock full of like brand new game announcements. And this time around, it's like, okay, it's some ports, and hey, here's a new Kirby kind of game. That was like the big new game announcement. Otherwise, it was just a bunch of ports. So It's gotten to that point now where people are like, okay, cool, we have a bunch of stuff, but like, when's the direct coming that's going to show off new stuff that we don't know about that's actual new games? And we're still waiting. So we can talk about how we don't appreciate it, but people watch Nintendo Directs for game announcements. Like let's not kid ourselves. It's the same reason that people watch E3. People want game announcements. But if the announcements they give are just ports, it starts to become a little redundant and not as exciting. If every new announcement every time is a port, people want new. And there wasn't really that. I mean, Kirby was it. There wasn't really a new game announced. So it's one of those situations where I think some people that are disappointed just look at it as, yeah, it was a summary of crap we already knew and then some ports. When are we going to get new game information, like new game stuff? And we didn't get that. So it's easy to say, like, we don't appreciate it, but it's also a strange direct because there was nothing new. Does that make sense? Like, it wasn't a bad direct. It just was a strange one because nothing new happened. It was a summary of all of the great content we already know about. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't think you need a direct to do that. The detective game on the ship looked pretty cool. Yeah, that indie game. I think it was like one of the only indie games they showed. It looked really good. When did this party start, Corey? Well, it starts at noon Central Standard Time every day. So, well, it won't be tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be a weird day. I got something going on. It's some like side job I'm doing to try to make enough money to pay my cell phone bill. That's why I'm not sure if I'm going to be around tomorrow. It's going to be weird. It's been kind of a weird week. I wanted to use this week to jumpstart my new content, my new schedule, but then some family emergency stuff came up, and now this thing came up, and I don't know. We'll be back at it next week for sure, hitting it hard. Podcast is being recorded tonight and all that, so it's been kind of, I guess we're slowly getting back into the flow of things. Right? I had a Prime News episode before. We got the day streams. We had a Nintendo Direct, which just threw everything for a loop. So we will be on a regular content schedule one of these weeks, and I'm hoping next week's the start of it. But life doesn't always listen to your plan. However, if we get our third kid into 4K that we're trying to do, that really opens up the morning, so I can stay consistent in the morning. Since morning is when I get my morning video done, and then I get Prime News, all the research done, and get that recorded every morning. So if I don't have any kids around at all, that really would make things pretty easy on me, Monday through Friday. Let me see here. The Artisan says the Direct was mediocre, a lot of retread of games we know about and already saw gameplay for. LM3, Pokemon, David Smile, Mario, Sonic, Olympics, AC, Link's Awakening, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Were people not already sold Luigi's Mansion 3 before this Direct? I have no idea. Well, here's the thing. Showing Luigi's Mansion 3 in this Direct isn't about selling more people. It's just about reminding people it's coming. The game literally comes out, a month and 26 days from now or something like that. You got to remind people it's coming. Like, you're not going to not mention a game that's coming out. That would be like them not mentioning Link's Awakening this month. Like, of course you're going to mention it. The game's coming out soon. And so I don't know if they were doing it to sell it. It's just to remind people, hey, look, don't forget Luigi's Mansion comes out next month. Okay, cool. Don't care for Tokyo Mirage. Ain't big on Pokemon and Animal Crossing. Link's Awakening is still... Link's Awakening does look good. I'm not going to lie there. See here. Nintendo could have blown the lid off with a new HD 2D Metroid game from scratch for Switch. Well, they might not have a game like that in development, so... it's one of those things that you might be wanting something that Nintendo isn't currently interested in making. I'm happy that Overwatch is on Switch because most of my friends play it and my PC is terrible. I mean, it only runs at 30 FPS on Switch, which for some is going to be a letdown because Paladins runs at 60. So to see Overwatch run at 30, I know Overwatch looks prettier. I suppose I would say it's probably a prettier game. I think I could sacrifice some prettiness for 60 FPS, but runs at 900p, 30 FPS docked, 720p, 30 FPS handheld. So, I don't know. I mean, it'll be playable. I just think multiplayer games like that are better at 60 FPS. But Let's see here. What, noon every day? Oh, Monday through Friday. Monday through Friday. Really starting next week because we didn't have one yesterday because of my family emergency, and then tomorrow I'm doing this odd job to try to get enough money for my cell phone bill. So really starting next week, Monday through Friday, there'll be a noon stream. Let's see here. I'm sorry, what's 4K? Why are we talking about 4K? Let's see here. We have Samus, Pit, Captain Falcon, and Olimar in Smash. But where are their new iterations? Well, being in Smash Bros. Has nothing to do with it. Being in Smash Bros. Is about being iconic. It's not about whether there's a new game coming out. I mean, Rob is in there. Where's our new Rob game? Game & Watch is in there. Where's our new Game & Watch? Like, it's about being iconic. It's not about having new games coming out in those franchises. So, being in Smash Bros. Has nothing to do with new iterations. That's you, the artisan, fantasizing that, because these characters are in Smash, we should have new games. It's not how it works. So, not that I don't want those new games. I'm just saying that, like, being in Smash Bros. Has nothing to do with new games. It has to actually do with the success of your prior games and you being an iconic character. You youngest, what are we talking about 4K for? I never mentioned Corey knows what 4K is. So I don't know why we're bringing that up right now. I think Tracer's moveset would be great for Smash. All people who want Tracer in Smash. Game & Watch Ultimate Collection 2020. The Game & Watch games are okay. They're not, like, horrible, but they're kind of like half-done mini-games because they were limited by the technology at the time. Whatever, they work. I'm Someone mentioned before this is a beard. This isn't a beard. This is like a 5 o'clock shadow that needs to be shaved. Not a beard. A beard is like, it's way more thick than this. I can like still feel my skin underneath. I just gotta shave. But my razor is dull. My fiance used it to shave her legs the other day, so now it's dull. I gotta get some new ones. Had an idea for a new Water Kingdom in Odyssey. DLC called Reef Kingdom, the Aqua Shallows, a Shipwreck, and all from Mario 64. Heavenly. Sure, that'd be cool. That would be cool. The Artisan. If I was working for Nintendo, I would know exactly what IP to greenlight. Well, there's a lot of things that go into consideration when you're greenlighting things. First and foremost is how successful sales-wise would this thing you're greenlighting be? Because you are investing real money now. You're not just a gamer with wants and desires. You're now a corporate entity, and you have to maintain profit. Whoa! That can't be real. That can't be real. What just happened? Was that a $50 dono? Through the donation link? What? What? Joe Prosco with the $50 dono. Woo! Man, I feel like I gotta do something special. Let me read what he said first. Haven't donated in a while. Well, I would say that $50 dono will just about sum you up for the rest of 2019. Look forward to when you acquire a new Switch and wanted to help with that. Oh, thanks, man. As I said, I'm not doing fan funding towards the new Switch, but I do appreciate the $50 donation. Obviously, at a time when things are not going exactly the greatest financially, that's what led to me getting rid of the Switch in the first place, and why I'm doing this job tomorrow, trying to make enough to pay the old cell phone bill. So thank you so much for that support. I appreciate it. Man, the $50 donation. Woo! A little Ric Flair action over here. Ah, man. You know what? I know it's a little early in the day. It's a little early in the day, but I gotta hit this. I gotta hit this one for you. I'm sorry. It's staring at me. I gotta hit this one for you. It's a little rummy. I can't believe that just happened. That's like the biggest donation we have had this year. I don't even think I'm exaggerating. I'm pretty sure that's the biggest donation of 2019. Thank you so much, Joe, man. I can't believe that just happened. Not only did you break the donation seal, we haven't even had super chats yet today. Woo! Okay. I'm done. I'm good. I'll calm down. We'll get back to our regular scheduled broadcast here. Thank you, Joe, though. I appreciate it. Just a short hit of rum to help with your heart. Just a little bit of rum. Get that heart under control. Let's see here. Link's Awakening and Luigi's Mansion 3 have some crazy good polish. Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're really well polished. Oh, what was I talking about before? Oh, about greenlighting games if you run Nintendo. So there's like a lot of things you have to consider if you're running Nintendo, because now you have to worry about profitability. You're not just worried about, oh, these are the games I want to be made, so they need to be made. So one, you have to look at prior sales data, prior profit margins compared to other games you could be making instead, and their development and their sales data and their profit margins. So you now have to consider a whole bunch of things when you greenlight games that when you're a gamer, you don't think about. You're like, give me Pikmin 4. Well, how well did Pikmin 3 actually do? And what could you be making instead of Pikmin 3, and how much would that game be making instead of Pikmin 4, F-Zero, etc. You have to consider this, a whole bunch of stuff now that you're running Nintendo, because if you do not consider it, you will lose your job, and not only that, you could literally tank Nintendo's profitability, which would then tank their future success. So you got to consider other things. Anthrazil Warrior kept the donation train going. Hits me with the $2 super chat. $2 to make you holla. Let's get this train started. Why don't we with the super chat trade? Woo woo! Choo choo! I don't know why I just did that, but thank you so much for the $2. I appreciate it. Getting back to the stuff, you got to consider that. You got to consider what your development teams want to make. That's something that we don't often consider when we're gamers. We're like, oh, we want this, we want that, we want this. But what do the people who actually work for your company want to make? If you don't have a development studio that has like enough people that really care to make a Pikmin 4, care to make an F-Zero, then you can't really just tell them you need to make this thing, because then there won't be passion behind the project, because that's not what they want to be making. So now you also have to consider what your employees want. You can't just consider what you want. And on top of all of that, you then have to obviously consider marketing budgets. You have to consider, different territories. What territory will this game be successful in? What will it not be successful in? Blah, 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 blah. So at the end of the day, we can talk about how, they should have a 2D Metroid. They should have this. They should have that. Blah, blah, blah. It shouldn't take long, a year and a half? That's still a year and a half of people you have to pay when you are running Nintendo. And if that game doesn't even turn a profit, who gets in trouble for that? Or do you fire employees because now the company's not making money? It's a slippery road. So the way I look at it is Cory Bohm is the way I look at it, apparently. With the $2 Canadian, which is, I don't know, was that $1.50 or something like that? Who cares about Pikmin 4? We need Splatoon 3 yesterday. I don't think we need Splatoon 3 yesterday. They literally just stopped updating Splatoon like a couple months ago. So let's pump the brakes. Splatoon 3, I think, should be 2021. Give it some room to breathe. Let some other games come out. Drill us in summer of 2021. But this is also my firm belief that Nintendo is going to keep refreshing Switch hardware for years. So then it's not really like, the new Switch, in 2021, 2022 misses out on Splatoon 3. No, everything's backwards compatible. So it's just a family of Switch systems that keep getting better, and all the games work on all of them. I mean, that's the ideal world you live in that isn't actually realistic long haul, because eventually the new Switches would be so much more powerful than the OG Switch that you'd have to drop support from the OG Switch eventually. Just like with cell phones, all the things are backwards compatible only so many generations, and then you drop support. But whatever. We can worry about that in 15 years. I don't know. However long it takes us to get there. Splatoon Battle Royale 2020. But yeah, I would love to see a whole bunch of Nintendo's IPs come back that we haven't seen in a long time. I mean, I've been begging for a new Star Tropics or a Star Tropics remastered forever. But the bottom line is, I know it's probably not going to sell very well, so it's probably not worth the investment to do it just because I want it. But I still want it. Man, oh man, oh man. How about releasing Wii Sports HD? It sold most of any Nintendo game. They did that on Wii U, actually. They did do Wii Sports in HD on Wii U. Just they delivered it really. It was like this rental service thing. It was really weird. You could play for free for like 3 hours, and then like you had to like rent time to play individual things. It was strange. Let's just put it that way. And it's weird to see one of the most successful new franchises they made be treated that way and then not have anything happen since. I don't know that they could release another game called Wii Sports. Maybe they call it Switch Sports. I have no idea. But I do think another one needs to be attempted at some point. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know what they're going to name it. I know they're kind of going away from Mii's now, but they need to figure out something. Because I can't just fathom in my head that you have something that successful and then just leave it on a single platform, or even like that HD rental thing on Wii U. Like let's see if it has life as another new game. I think that might be worth an investment, or at least a look, especially since Switch, the OG, the base Switch anyways, has motion controls technically still, if you want to make that a key part of all of it. Morrison popped in with a question, and he says, Morrison22, what is your opinion on the idea of people who play pirated Switch games who would otherwise not buy any games at all because they can't afford them? My opinion on people who play pirated Switch games who would otherwise not buy any games at all because they can't afford them is don't play video games. This is kind of like one of those lifestyle reality checks. Video games are not for everyone because video games are expensive. The Switch itself is $300. If you can't afford to buy the games for the Switch, you probably shouldn't have spent the $300 on the Switch in the first place. You should have put that $300 towards something that would have helped you advance further in life. You should be probably focusing on your career, focusing on your goals, focusing on your schooling, focusing on a zillion other things that can get you into a point where you can afford the luxury to play video games. Because reality is that video games is an optional entertainment medium that's a luxury. It's a luxury medium. It is not for people who are poor. Now, this isn't me trying to say that this person in particular is poor, but if you can't budget out for games, because I am as poor as can be with 3 kids now, I don't even have a Switch right now. I can't afford it. It's one of those situations where you either live within your budget, or if the choice is to live within your budget or choose to do something illegally, the choice is to live within your budget. So I don't want to say that poor people can't play video games, but that should be so far from a priority in their life when they should be worrying about their next meal. They should be worrying about where they're going to live. They should be worrying about paying rent and paying things like your cell phone bill. They should be worrying about not living paycheck to paycheck and trying to advance in their career or going to college or something. I'm always of mind that if you are someone who buys a video game console knowing that you can't afford any of the games on it and that you're just going to pirate and play them illegally, then your priorities aren't straight already, and you're probably not going to get as far in life as you would like, because you're prioritizing playing something and enjoying a medium you can't afford instead of working towards being someone who could afford that medium. So my advice is always just don't do it. Don't do illegal things. It's dumb. And the worst part about all of it is if on the off chance, I know it doesn't happen often, but on the off chance you're actually busted, you're going to go to prison. Is it even worth that 0.00001% chance of being busted and going to prison instead of actually trying to improve your life so you can afford the luxury of playing video games? You tell me. But that's my stance. This isn't me trying to put people down. It's live within your means. I definitely know, because I was living within my means and I had kids, and kids screwed up my means entirely because kids are expensive. They're just expensive. I mean, we're spending like $1,500 per month on groceries. Kids are expensive. I used to be able to live on like a $200 a month grocery budget. Kids change it all. And they're growing, so they're eating even more. And yeah. So I'm just letting you go that you need to have your priorities straight. And if the priority is I'm going to play games illegally, then I don't think your priorities are straight. Personal opinion, of course, you can feel free to disagree. I'm not here to judge you for your life choices. But you asked the question, so I gave you the answer. Let's see here. Let's see here. How about Super NES Remix on Switch as an eShop exclusive? In contrast to NES Remix on Wii U, there's so much Nintendo can do. They could, but I don't think they're going to do it. They're focusing their classic library on the online service, and I think offering something like that on the eShop devalues their online service, so Nintendo's not going to do that. Let me see here. You could buy all Wii Sports Club as a single physical release without the rental. Oh, you could? Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I barely dabbled in it, and then I moved on. That was the one game Nintendo brought to Switch that I didn't play that much. I just did the rental stuff when it was free, and then that was it. Star Tropics game would be amazing. Thanks, Owen. Link's Awakening is your most anticipated game. Dude, I love... Link's Awakening is the first Zelda game I ever played. It is what made me fall in love with the Zelda franchise. Zelda franchise is now my favorite franchise of all time, and Link's Awakening is to thank for that. So, I am beyond pumped that they are revisiting that game after all these years. Hopefully, I'll get a new Switch sometime this month and be able to enjoy it. Otherwise, I will get one later this year, or whenever I can afford it. I'm in no rush right now. I got other things more important, like other bills and stuff more important than video games. But we will get back to it. I promise. I am a gamer and I miss it. So we will get back to it. I mean, I get to play some games on my PC a little bit, but I will be back to it and I will be playing. It's just a matter of time. All right. Hey, we had a new subscriber. Crazed. Minecraft and more. New subscriber. Hey, that new subscriber made us hit 46,000. This is only, by the way, this is only like the 10th or 11th time we've hit 46K. The question I have is, when are we going to move so far beyond 46K that I don't have to worry about dropping below it? Every time I release a new video, I seem to lose subscribers. So, there's that. Let's see here. What is the obsession with some YouTubers to have every year being packed with games? Not every year needs to be packed with games. I don't think. Here's the way I look at it as. The reason that this isn't I don't want to say it's a YouTuber thing. I think this is more of a consumer thing. I want every year packed with games, not because I'm a YouTuber, but because I firmly believe not every game's for every person. So let's say you have a year like last year with Switch, where there isn't a whole lot. You have Diablo 3, you had Mario Tennis, you had Kirby, Star Allies, then you had Smash and Pokemon. And let's just say, as an example, you're not interested in any of those games, right? But the prior year, you were interested in Zelda and Mario, Splatoon 2, and ARMS. All the games you were interested in came out the year prior, but then in 2018, nothing came out you wanted. That happens when there's not a wide variety of content. So my thing is, I want every year packed with games, because that means there is a massive variety of major games every single year. So even if you're not into, say, these 3 or these 4 games, there's probably a 5th or 6th or 7th game that you are really into. Obviously, for people that like all of the games, all the Nintendo exclusives, it could be pretty hard right now. I think I did the math the other day. It's something like over $400 you'd have to spend if you bought all the games day one, from Mario Maker 2 on through the end of the year, if you bought all the exclusives. So I can understand how it's a bit daunting, but it's also one of those things where having that sheer amount of releases, make sure there's something for everyone every year. And when you end up with dry spells and dry years, you end up where only a certain segment's happy and everyone else is kind of left out to dry. So that is why, personally, I think it's pro-consumer to want a wide variety of content yearly, because a wide variety of content means more people are satisfied every single year. That's just me, though. Feel free to disagree, but you asked the question, and I gave you my answer. That's the same thing to Morrison, who asked a question that might be a little touchy for some people. Let's see here. Wait till their teens. Oh, dude. My kids in their teens, that $1,500 budget's probably going to need to be like $2,500 when they're a teenager. I remember what I was like as a teenager. My kids, it's going to be insane. Let's see here. I mean, it's going to be bad when the dog's bigger and then he's eating like half a bag of food a day because it's going to be a Great Dane, so he's just freaking huge. Let's see here. That new 2D ukulele game looks pretty nice. Yep, that new ukulele game does look pretty good. Way better than my initial impressions were on it. Let's see. Corey Bohm asks, Astral Chain Game of the Year. Thank you so much. Who just subscribed? Nate? Is that Nate that just subscribed? Thank you, Nate, for subscribing. All right. Astral Chain Game of the Year. I haven't played it, so I can't really give a feeling on it one way or another. I know general impressions are it's pretty good. I will play it eventually. I think right now Luigi's Mansion 3 is still standing tall as my potential Game of the Year. But again, I also have to play that one too. I can't just play the demo at E3 and be like, it's Game of the Year. I think it has potential, but we'll see. So right now, Luigi's Mansion 3 is still leading the way for me, but I have to play everything to really put a flag down and be like, yeah, okay, Luigi's Mansion 3 is Game of the Year. Oh, it's Astral Chain. Oh, it's this. And I'm just talking for Switch, by the way. Obviously, I'm not getting into all the third-party offerings that are on other systems that people might prefer more of. Obviously, with Death Stranding, I think, coming this year, and some other stuff that people might think is Game of the Year. And I won't be playing those this year to talk about them. So it'll be a Nintendo-only thing once I get around to it. Let's see here. Just Cliff says, do you feel that 2020 will get a 3D Mario title, whether an Odyssey 2 remake or a new game entirely? Also, do you see Breath of the Wild 2 releasing next year? I think of Breath of the Wild 2. I think if Breath of the Wild 2 comes next year, which I don't think it is, but if it comes next year, I don't think we're going to see a 3D Mario. If it is coming next year, or if it's not coming next year, I do think some sort of 3D Mario will. Whether it's a port of 3D World, Odyssey 2, I know some people talk about Mario Sunshine HD or something. I think all of that has an opportunity to come next year. I don't think we're going to get a year where a major Mario like Odyssey 2 and Breath of the Wild 2 landing in the same year. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think that was a perfect storm for Nintendo, and I think they're going to use Animal Crossing as that launch, that game at the beginning of the year. They're not going to need Zelda and Mario the rest of the year. They're going to need one or the other. So I think one or the other will happen, but I don't know which. And this is also presuming that Mario Kart 9 isn't something that comes next year either, which could happen and could throw a loop into everything, because Mario Kart is arguably Nintendo's biggest franchise at this point. So, Madden 2020. Well, it's not coming to Switch, so it doesn't really matter. And it's not going to be Game of the Year. I have played Madden 2020 on my computer, and it's pretty fun, but it's not... I wouldn't consider it Game of the Year. It's hard to put a sports game that could be pretty iterative in a lot of aspects as a Game of the Year contender. Maybe that's just me. Maybe other people think that's unfair. But personally, I love sports games, but I know they're pretty iterative every year, and something would have to really blow me away. And I like Madden 2020. But I'm not gonna say like it blows me away. And Game of the Year games usually blow me away. Later, Owen. Let's see here. Is Switch Pro a holiday console or a summer one to prepare for next gen? I have no idea. I don't know if Switch Pro even exists, but if it does, I have no clue what Nintendo's plan would be. My guess would be it's going to launch next to a major game, and it will be a game that's a game and launch designed to combat PlayStation 5 and the next Xbox, even though the Pro will be well behind them. If you attach a must-buy game to it, along with Switch's current momentum and the large library it has and full backwards compatibility, I think it could bode well. But I'm not sure what the right timing for that is. It's easy to say it should come out before the other systems, and it's also easy to say it should come out at the same time to grab some attention. So I don't know. I have no idea if it even comes out at all next year. I have no idea. Bayonetta 3 would be nice. Bayonetta 3 would be nice. Tokyo Mirage Encore January. Animal Crossing New Horizons March. Trial of Mana April. Lineup sort. Yeah, I mean Trials of Mana. I don't know how many people think it's a big deal, but yeah. I mean the beginning of next year starts nice. You have one major brand new title that's bigger than anything in Animal Crossing. You have a nice Wii U port that's a high quality title, but I don't know if it's going to sell that well in January. I think those are the ones to lean on. Trial of Mana, I'm excited about it, but I don't know that that's going to be considered a major get beginning of the year. It's more so a nice tweener game, which is okay. Tweener games are important, but tweener games are nice when we know what's coming next, and we don't really know what's coming next after it. So, again, a lot of time, though, for us to figure that out. We don't have to know right now. Really liked how they included Smash info after the Direct. I think the Direct should be more announcement-focused, even though the games weren't just jaw-dropping. I thought the flow was fine. I had no problem with the flow. And, yeah, the Smash info after was nice. I personally didn't care, but I know people that are, obviously hardcore into Smash care about that stuff. So, let's see here. Could be summer. It could be spring. We have no idea. Switch Pro is a complete mystery on if it's even real, and if it is, when is it coming? We have no idea. MSW Animations asks, do you think that I'm too hopeful because I would want a console that's between PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X? You're too hopeful. Too hopeful. The tech doesn't exist. I tell you right now, the mobile tech does not exist to do what you want. So it's not going to happen. Nintendo, the direction they've gone, they're always going to be restricted by the technology, and the technology doesn't exist, let alone does it exist in an affordable form. So you are too hopeful. Now you could talk base Xbox One level. That's more realistic. But between PlayStation 4 Pro and Xbox One X, it's just not. The technology just doesn't exist. No More Heroes 3, Shin Megami Tensei 5 as well. Yeah, that's the promise anyways, but we don't have any dates or any time frames. So Shin Megami Tensei 5 was supposed to be this year originally. So like I'm not getting hyped for those games until we know a time frame for when they're coming out. All right. See, there's some people are saying over on the old Mixa. His chair, Highland TARDIS over there. You just realized the chair is green screen? Yep, it is green screen. The green chair. Yeah, I still have my portable green screen up from earlier. I think this week's podcast, I'm not going to use the normal setup either. I think I'm going to use this with the green screen because 5J has a green screen as well. So I can do something really neat with the editing with just me and 5J with the green screen. Heck, I can make it look like 5J and I are in the same room. So it'll be interesting to make that work. Let's see here. How likely is GTA 6 Switch exclusive? Well, I can tell you right now, GTA 6 would never be Switch exclusive. So how likely? I'm not even going to give you a 1 out of a trillion. There's zero chance that GTA 6 would be Switch exclusive. That's just not possible. That would be one of the dumbest decisions I could make. Corey says that SMT5 would make sense as a late 2020 title to build out Tokyo Mirage, maybe, or it could make sense as a mid 2020 title so people don't forget about Tokyo Mirage. Who knows? Edward Noy says we're probably getting a No More Heroes 1 and 2 remasters. Probably. The Artisan says I'm guessing a new Mario Sports style next year as well. Something. Golf or strikers or baseball. There'll probably be some sort of Mario Sports style. Camelot's working on something. We just don't know what. But they're going to be working on something, I'm sure. How is Gordon Edgar not taken out yet? He still has 3,142% as a stream boss. That $50 dono didn't take him out. It's okay. I think it takes like $80 or something total to take out a stream boss. I can't remember. It's been a long time. Ugh. As long as you guys have questions, we'll keep this bad boy going. The maximum time for this noon stream is till 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So as long as you guys have things you want me to talk about, we can keep going for about another 36 minutes. Pikmin 4 Summer 2020. Pikmin 4. I would love it. Don't think it's happening. I think we'll get a Pikmin 3 port long before we see Pikmin 4. Could be wrong, of course. Just an opinion. Anyone picking up Little Town Hero from Game Freak? I plan to eventually. MSW Animations says, who is the worst, 2K, Activision, or EA? I think most people would default to EA just because it's easy. 2K is pretty bad. What they're doing with NBA 2K20 is the worst microtransactions of all time. Let's just call it what it is. It's the worst microtransactions of all time. It's literal gambling. You have slot machines. It's a literal, it's the worst microtransactions of all time. But NBA 2K20 is still going to be considered a good game. Despite the microtransactions, it will still be considered a good game. Obviously, 2K has Rockstar under its umbrella. And so people are going to look at Red Dead Redemption 2 and all these other games that 2K publishes. And they're going to be like, I can't really hate 2K too much because the games are still good. They haven't been destroyed by the microtransactions. They're made worse, but the games are still good. EA has a problem where the goodness of their games gets destroyed by the microtransactions. Activision, again, it's kind of similar to 2K where the games are still good. Like, oh, they added this dumb crap into Crash Bandicoot Racing, but CTR Racing is still good. So it's one of those things where you're kind of in the situation where 2K and Activision are putting microtransactions in that aren't destroying the overall quality of the product. They do make the product worse, but they're not destroying the overall game quality. Like, they're not sacrificing actual development of gameplay for the microtransactions. EA sacrifices game development for microtransactions. So EA is probably the worst, and Activision and 2K are probably about the same, in my opinion. But none of it's good. None of the microtransaction stuff is good, but I think that EA is a step above everyone else in terms of how bad they are. Corey Bohm says, how low in the standings will the Deer Roadkill, a.k.a. Bucks, fall this year? How low in the standings? They will fall to the number 1 seed yet again. They'll probably lose in the conference finals again, but they will be the number 1 seed again. They have the most continuity of all of the teams in the Eastern Conference. A bunch of their competition got worse. Some of the competition that did get better. I'm really worried about the Nets in 2 years. I'm not really worried about them this year. So I think obviously your team, the Raptors, have gotten worse. No Kawhi anymore. So I think the Bucks are probably going to still be the number 1 seed. It's just a question of if they can do anything in the playoffs more so than what seed they're going to be. Because they could be the number 5 seed. It doesn't really matter. What matters is can they get it done in the playoffs. Last year they topped out in the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll see what happens this year. Morrison 22. Do you think Nintendo will take the every September route to add a new retro system to their online service? And up until what system is the Switch capable of emulating? Switch is capable of emulating all the way through GameCube. Arguably, Wii. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. It has been proven, anyways, that the technology inside Switch can emulate GameCube and can emulate Wii games. So it can go all the way up to Wii. Wii U wise, it probably makes more sense to just port the games rather than have it run Wii U games natively. But what the Switch can do and what Nintendo's going to do are two different things. I think they will add a new system every year for the next 2 or 3 years. I think eventually, like next year might be N64, but then once it hit N64, then they go, oh, the following year we're going to add Game Boy. The next year after that, we're going to add Game Boy Advance or something. I don't think they're going to ever actually release GameCube games on Switch like the other platforms. Not because Switch can't do it, because Nintendo doesn't want to offer that kind of value when they could take those games and remaster them or something in the future and make more money. So, I think we will see Bayonetta 3 gameplay this year. I think we'll see it at the Game Awards. I thought we'd see it last year, but I definitely think we'll see it this year. Corey has to leave. Later, man. The Chubster over on, whatchamacallit, Mixer says it's only $25 for a little town here. It's definitely, yeah, only $25 and Overwatch is $40. So, I mean, not bad pricing. I'll probably get both eventually on Switch. The Chubster over on Mixer says, how could the ESRB better rate a game for online microtransactions? I think there should be a separate rating board for online activities and have tags for pay-to-win microtransactions, built-in voice chat, text talk. Crossplay would be informative for the public. Some of that they do have. But like the thing is that people don't look at the ESRB ratings in the first place. The ESRB's number one issue is that parents don't read the back of the box. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is I don't think the ESRB needs to better rate a game for online microtransactions. I think if the game has microtransactions, no matter if it's online or offline, it should say it on the box. I don't think it needs a separate rating. I think it's all the same rating because the online experience is part of what you buy out of the box. So, if there is pay to win microtransactions, I think it should be rated, E18, 18 plus or something. It needs to be rated, adult only or mature. And doing that would kill a lot of games forcing microtransactions because they want to appeal to kids. So you're kind of left in this conundrum where parents aren't going to read it anyways. So how much difference does it really make? Versus, well, it's kind of sort of the right thing to do. Let's see here. Hey, is Overwatch a cross-platform game? It is not currently cross-platform, no. They're talking about it, but it's not right now. I really want Hearthstone on Switch. I think it'll happen. I think it'll come eventually. I'm surprised it's not here already. It makes too much sense. The artisan said Roger Bass was off on a lot of his predictions too, even a new WarioWare game. Yeah, I mean, I didn't go back and look at my predictions, but I'm probably off on a lot of things. You think no one cares about the ESRB? Peggy is the one no one cares about. I can tell you right now that most parents don't care about any of the ratings on any of the games, no matter what territory you're in. Parents aren't even reading it. Oh, your friends play it? Must be fine. That's the society we live in. Oh, your friends play it. Okay. Then it's okay. Well, if so-and-so's mom's okay with it, then I'm okay with it. That's society. Parents don't know what their children are consuming. They don't know what they're consuming when they're on their phones. They don't know what they're consuming when they're on YouTube. They don't know what they're consuming when they're playing games. Parents just don't pay enough attention. And I'll tell you why. As a parent, I can tell you why this happens. And it's not because parents don't care and don't want to better monitor their kids and all that. The reason that parents don't care is because parents are always looking for relief. I'm a parent of 3, and some of the best moments I have had over the past month since my heart attack have been when me and my fiance got to have someone else watch our kids so her and I could go enjoy each other's company without the kids. Like when we had a free hotel stay at a resort, and we went there for a couple days. That was some of the best moments of my past month. And that's not because I don't like my kids, but it's because as a parent, kids are stressful. They're stressful all the time. I'm already stressed by my kids today, and 2 of them are at school, and the other one's being watched by my fiance. So I'm not even dealing with my kids today, and I'm already stressed just thinking about them. And there are moments with the kids that are happiness and make it all worthwhile as well, but parents are always kind of looking for that relief. So if they could just stick their kid in front of a tablet or a TV, if they can just hand the kid a phone, if they can just distract the kid with a video game or YouTube or something, the parent takes advantage of it because they look at it as, okay, they're being entertained. Now it's okay for me to be in the other room doing whatever, whether it's, watching a movie that you wouldn't let your kids watch. That happens all the time. It happens in this house. Whether it's having sex with your spouse or something, whatever it is you're doing, whatever relief you're having, even if you're just sitting outside enjoying nature, parents want that break, that mental break. And because of that, they stop paying as close of attention to what their kids are consuming, more concerned that their kids are being entertained and not bothering them. So now me, I like to think that I'm a pretty informed parent. I'm obviously really informed on video games and ratings and what I'm okay with my kids playing. But like, there's even things like I have to be informed on what my kids are consuming on YouTube. My daughter likes to watch FGTV on YouTube, and I don't have an issue with FGTV's family oriented. I mean, it's family gaming TV. I don't have an issue with their channel on the whole, right? I've watched enough of their content to get a gist of what it is. I understand why kids like it. I get why it's entertaining. It doesn't really bother me on the whole. But what happens is when we allow our daughter to watch it is she starts talking in some of the voices that he does at inappropriate times. She starts recreating some of the Hello Neighbor situations in real life that some of them are not really appropriate and even potentially dangerous. So what ends up happening is I have to not let her watch a show that I don't really think is that bad of a show because it's influencing my daughter to do things that she shouldn't be doing. So I have to nip that in the bud and not let that happen. And she's the only one. The boys watch it and they're fine. And this is why I have no problem if they watch Blippi on YouTube, because Blippi is a very educational show. I find it to be annoying, but my kids learn things, especially my youngest. He learns things about colors and numbers and shapes, and it's his Sesame Street, right? So I'm okay with it. But as a parent, I have to stay active. Whenever my daughter is on her, she has not an iPhone, but she has an iPod, one of those iPod touches. Whenever she's on it, I'm constantly on my phone, going to my router and seeing what she's doing. I know if she's on Roblox because the Roblox is an online game, so it has to connect through my modem, so I can tell if she's playing Roblox. I can tell if she's browsing the web. I can tell if she's on YouTube, and I can kick her off of any of it thanks to my router's phone app. So I'm constantly trying to keep track of what my kids are doing. But not all parents are like that. Even when I'm not home and they're with a babysitter, I'll still double check. Hey, I'm going to check the internet and see what my kids are doing. I don't like, I understand why parents don't pay as much attention as they should. But I also am a parent that I guess I kind of grew up. It might be different for me because I grew up when the internet really started blowing up. I was back on the internet on dial-up days in the 90s. So, like, I literally grew up when social media became a thing and this YouTube thing. Like, all this blew up, and I'm still young enough to not be disassociated from it. Even if I don't understand everything today. Like, I don't get Instagram. We're on Instagram, by the way, Nintendo_Prime. We're on Instagram. I don't get it. I don't get why it's popular. I don't get what the point is, but I'm on it. It's like, I don't get everything, but I try to pay attention to everything going on so I know and can stay informed on what's going on with my kids, so I know what's influencing them, so I can try to steer them towards things I find to be more appropriate. And you might say that you're trying to control your kids, but that's what you do as a parent. You're trying to steer your kids in the direction that you think is best at that time. That's like the biggest part of parenting, is trying to steer your kids towards more what you feel, anyways, based on your experiences, are the more positive influences. I let my kids play games and stuff, but there's certain games I don't let them play. So at least not yet. Maybe as they grow older and I know they can be more mature about it, then I'll let them experience some of that other stuff. It's not always age-related. It's just a maturity level thing half the time. So, anyways, I just like to stay as informed as I can, but I do think a lot of parents don't, and that's why you see them just not caring about game ratings, not caring about what they're watching on YouTube or anything, because parents just, they're overwhelmed. Parents are overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed. Parents get overwhelmed, and so they view whatever they could send their kids to the other room to do as, thank God I get a break. And I feel it. But I also think as a parent, it's our responsibility that even if we're having that break, that we pay attention to what our kids are actually doing. Because we ultimately, if we don't and we just let them do what they want, it is kind of your fault when they grow up to be little shits or whatever they do, defiant kids. When you do finally try to crack down on them in high school or whatever, and they don't listen to you, well, why would they listen to you now when you weren't doing it before? It's a conundrum. So we'll see what happens with my own kids as they grow older, because I'm definitely no parenting expert, but I try my best. And I know the ratings don't work because parents don't care to read the back of the box. For some reason, parents care more about the ratings on movies, which I find to be interesting, than video games. I'm not sure what mental thing in their head isn't clicking that these ratings on video games are the same thing as the ratings on movies, but I don't know. I think it's just a lack of understanding or respect for the medium. Like, I think parents are more acutely aware of TV and movie ratings than they are video games because they personally consume TV and movies. They might not personally consume video games, so then they don't understand video game ratings. I think that's probably what it really is, and why they take TV ratings more seriously. But I happen to think video games are a bigger deal than TV and video games, and I know they're a bigger deal because all the money in the world says they are. Video games a bigger industry than movies and stuff. So I know as a gamer how important the industry is and how important it is to monitor what your kids are doing. But unfortunately, not every parent is as tuned in, I guess. As for, you're rambling. I always ramble. Welcome to the Nintendo Prime. Let's see here. Some of the questions that came in. How come Nintendo pushes some franchises like Fire Emblem and Xenoblade, but they don't push things like Pikmin the right way to sell better? Pikmin was on consoles that didn't sell well. The thing is again, there's more things that go into what Nintendo does game-wise than just, what's it selling well? It's also, do we want to make this right now? Fire Emblem gets pushed big because Fire Emblem, ever since Fire Emblem Awakening, makes them a decent chunk of money. So for Fire Emblem, it's simply, hey, look, it makes us a lot of money. We're going to make a lot of Fire Emblem games. Xenoblade is one of the core franchises from a studio they purchased. So Xenoblade gets pushed because the studio they purchased that helps them out with Zelda games, this is like their flagship game. Xenoblade Chronicles is Monolith Soft's flagship IP at this point. So it's going to get pushed because it's one of their owned studios' flagship IPs. So because of that, it's going to get pushed because they're trying to help that studio be as successful as it can be, especially since that studio helps out Nintendo in other ways. When you see, they don't push Pikmin the right way to sell better, I don't know what they could have done with Pikmin 3 to make it sell better. It was on a failed platform. Bottom line is Wii U was a failure. And when they were making Pikmin 3, they didn't know Wii U was going to be that way. Pikmin 3 came out within the first year of the system coming out. They didn't know Wii U was going to flop. I mean, Satoru Iwata went on record saying he thought Wii U would sell 100 million units. They thought Wii U was going to repeat Wii. So they didn't think making Pikmin 3 for it was a mistake. So we could talk about how, why did they push it? Pikmin 3 had advertisements in Walmart. They pushed Pikmin 3. It's just the system wasn't selling, so the game didn't sell. It's more a victim of circumstance than anything else. Nintendo will take every September route to add new retro system. Yeah, I already answered before. Yes, they will. Let's see here. How come so many games reach 60 FPS, but Blizzard didn't get Overwatch running on 60 FPS? Lack of experience porting games to Switch. They hired a studio to do it that hasn't ported a lot of Switch games. So it's just a lack of experience. They don't have a lot of experience with the hardware. It's something that you could see patched in the future if they really care about it. But I think it's just a lack of experience. When you don't have a lot of experience with a particular type of hardware, this mobile hardware Switch is using, it can be pretty difficult to work with. And I think there's just not a ton of experience at Blizzard or at the companies they're hiring to port. If they had hired Virtuos, if they had hired Panic Button, it probably would have been 60 FPS. But those two companies port a lot of third-party Switch games, and they're probably full up. They probably couldn't take on Overwatch because they already have contracts with a zillion other companies to bring games to Switch right now. So, let's see here. All the single parents. I'm not even single. Oh God, I should have realized there's apps that control the router. Yes, there are apps that control the router and control all internet traffic on that router. I can block any device. I can see what every device is doing. I can see how much bandwidth each device is. Yeah, it's crazy. I can control, if anyone's on my network at home, I can control everything from this phone. This phone's the master phone. There are other phones with the app that I can override. So it's not like my kids can download the app and then, we can do what we want. No, you can't, because you don't have the master code, which is this big 80 character code. So no, that even if my kids figure out, it's from an app, it's okay. They still can't do anything about it. Let's see here. So the Game Awards will have Metro Prime 4, Bayonetta 3, Zelda 2, and another Smash. I don't think the Game Awards is gonna have. I think the Game Awards is gonna have Bayo 3, and that's it. I don't think it's gonna have any of that other stuff. I think you're bringing up. You're putting a lot of hope on the Game Awards. The Game Awards will have a single Nintendo game announcement. It's not going to have a whole bunch. Got to remember the Game Awards has the entire industry there. That's not going to be basically a Nintendo Direct. You're getting a single game shown off. So what did parents do before phones and TV and games for relief? What did parents do before phones and TV and games for relief? Books, board games, and TV's been around for a long time. Let's be honest. They plopped their kids in front of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood back in the 60s. So it's been a long time that we've had TVs for entertainment for kids. So parents have been plopping their kids in front of those Saturday morning cartoons and Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and all that for long time. But before that, it was books and board games and card games and stuff like that. Stuff that still exists today, but kids aren't doing as much of. So that's what they did for relief. They said, hey, here's a deck of cards. Once you guys play Go Fish or something, we're going to go out on the porch and have a smoke or whatever the case might be. So parents still got the relief. But see, the thing is, you didn't have kids demanding video games or TV or tablets because they didn't exist. Kids only knew, for fun, we play tag. For fun, we play card games or board games or what have you. That's what they did for fun back then. So that was considered normal. $1,500 a month on groceries. Have you heard of Aldi? Yes, and all $1,500 are spent at Aldi's. Thanks. Have you heard of a house with 5 people and 3 people in particular that eat more than grown adults eat? You got to remember, there's twice a day snacks. Well, it'll be easier now that they're in school. It'll probably be cheaper now that they're in school. Summertime, it gets crazy. Grocery bill in summer is crazy. It's usually a lot cheaper. Usually it's only about $600 to $700 when they're in school because they have their lunch taken care of at school plus 2 snack times. So we only have to really worry about snack time with the youngest and then obviously weekends and dinners and breakfast. So it's actually much cheaper when they're in school. Because the school lunches are just way cheaper than what you can get in real life for the same price. So the Game Awards, already read that. Let's see here. Everything went to crap after the sexual revolution. That's okay. Let's see here. Back in the day, I'd have been sent to the monastery. I mean, that could happen. Let's see here. Every Pikmin game has been on failed platforms, and yet they still sell over 1 million copies. They need to get a damn franchise on Switch with a brand new. Yeah, I mean, that's what sucks about Pikmin. You feel so bad for Pikmin because every time they bring one out, it's just not put in the best situation to succeed. I really want to see them basically port over Pikmin 3 next summer, release Pikmin 4 either next holiday or the following spring on a successful platform with momentum. But for some reason, Pikmin has never been on a successful platform with momentum at the time it comes out. So it sucks, man. Pikmin just keeps getting shafted. Unintentionally, by the way. Nintendo's not like, oh man, this system's not doing well, let's put Pikmin on it. Like, that's not what they're thinking. These plans are made ahead of time. It just shows how little Nintendo has plans for success. Like, they don't know if a system's going to be successful or not. They just hope, and they just make the games, and they see what happens. I'm hoping that Pikmin 4 happens this generation, but by the time it comes out, it might be almost too late, so I don't know. It could end up being like Skyward Sword that came out way too late in the Wii's life. My friend is super into Overwatch. Is talking about a pre-order bonus is a super rare skin. That's cool. What time's the 9.0 up to? I'm not sure when it's going live. I heard like 5 p.m., 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. No December Direct. We are finished for the year. There could be, but I doubt it. Game Awards, obviously, we'll have at least one announcement, I think. Or at least one game shown off. Let's See here. Nintendo Prime. Why do you think people are calling Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition a remaster? When you compare it side by side, it's obviously a remake. Here's the thing. I've seen the side by side comparisons. I don't think it's a remake. Because, like, to me, a remake is you take a game and you literally rebuild it from the ground up. Like, this is weird. This is where, like, the remaster and remake words, they start to lose their meaning. Because, like, you have, let me just give you an example. See if I can show you an example. All right. So I'll give you an example here. This is how I view remasters and remakes. Okay. So, like, I think we can all agree. Let me get this up here. Let me full screen it. Oh, jeez. Of course you're not full screening. Open image in a new tab. Nope, that didn't work. Okay, maybe that's not a good image. All right, whatever. This will make my point. Oops, not that one. Okay. I know this is all messed up. So I think we can all agree things like Final Fantasy VII is a remake, right? The Final Fantasy VII remake is a remake. It looks nothing like the original game because the original game was really old school and all polygonal and stuff. This is a full-on remake. When you compare, let's see if I can find a comparison screenshot quick. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Okay, so you could say that that's like a remake, right? Okay, so then you start looking at like Definitive Edition. Okay, so let's see if we can find a like for like screenshot. Maybe we can do a Definitive Edition comparison. See if we can get a side by side shot here. Okay. So then you get this, right? So Nintendo World TV has this image up. Can I open it in a new tab? Is it gonna work? Of course it's not gonna work. Well, anyways, so you have this image here. What you'll notice is that while clearly the Definitive Edition looks way better than the original, it's also clearly the same person in the same pose and the same kind of not that great of background. I mean, the background's not that much more advanced than what you're seeing here. And it's very clearly just like new textures thrown on top of the same model. So you can look at remake and remasters too. A remastering is taking what's already there and making it prettier. So what they did is they took what's already here and made it prettier. A remake is from the ground up. They're rebuilding the game. They didn't rebuild Xenoblade Chronicles for Wii U, for Switch. I can tell you that right now. Xenoblade Chronicles was not rebuilt. And I don't... Did you guys see? Yeah, you guys saw it. So, yeah. Xenoblade Chronicles is not rebuilt from the ground up for Switch. It's just not. They just took what's already there and made it look prettier. This is something that probably took them less than a year to do. A remake is basically making a brand new game. You just know what the game is based on. So you have the source material, and you can kind of build off that source material. But a remaster, the way it's supposed to work anyways, is that a remaster is just taking what's there and making it look better. A remake is actually rebuilding the game. So that's why people are not calling Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition a remake, because they didn't rebuild the game. It's the same game. Same characters, same poses, same everything. It just looks prettier. Let's see here. Honestly, I'm super happy for Terry making it in the Smash Bros. Okay, cool. Yeah, I can see people being happy with Terry being in Smash Bros. There's nothing wrong with that. Aldi showed up in my neighborhood in California, confusing everyone in my grocery company. Yeah, dude, Aldi's super cheap. Gotta love Aldi's. They don't always have the greatest meat and fruit. You gotta kind of... Sometimes it's not that great, but I mean, that's true at every grocery store, I guess. Sometimes, you go through when everything's fresh and great and when things are old. Would a new 3D HD Donkey Kong game on Switch not sell? Sure it would. A new HDF Zero would as well. Nintendo need to get on the ball here. Yeah, you think a new 3D HD Donkey Kong game on Switch would sell. But the old 3D Donkey Kong game didn't sell. Like, you have to look at why did Nintendo stop making 3D Donkey Kong games? Because they weren't selling. Why did Nintendo stop making F-Zero? Because it wasn't selling very well. The bottom line is they stopped making the games because they stopped selling that well. If they were selling really well, they would have kept making them. Like, it's easy to look at it as fans as we want this, we want that, but we're not considering all these outside factors that really are why those games aren't here. We just look at it as we want it, so it should be here. Oh, of course it would sell. Of course, would it? Because it wasn't selling before. Why would it suddenly sell now? Because we want it to sell well? We don't have any evidence to suggest it would sell well. What we do have evidence of is Donkey Kong Country selling well, because Donkey Kong Country never sold poorly. It's just they advanced it to 3D Donkey Kong, and that sold bad. And then it took them a long time to come back to the 2D Country style game. It also doesn't help they lost Rare, in between there, where they sold Rare and Microsoft and all that stuff. That obviously also put a stop to going back to 2D Donkey Kong for a while. Let's see here. I would buy Platinum Games at this point. Nintendo should. Platinum Games is not interested in selling. Platinum Games has been asked this question several years over the past decade, or several times over the past decade. And Platinum Games every time has said we have zero interest in selling to any of the platform holders. They do not want to be beholden to a single platform at all. They don't want to be restricted by a single platform at all. They would rather those platform holders come to them and offer them contracts to make games. They have zero interest in being bought out. So when you're like, oh, Nintendo should, Nintendo can't, because the company isn't for sale. Platinum Games is not for sale, so there isn't anything Nintendo can do about it. But they do like working with Nintendo, and they will continue to work with Nintendo in the future. So you can look forward to that. They'll also work with Sony, and they'll also work with Microsoft. Microsoft might be a little tenuous after everything that happened with the, the game that shall not be named that everyone's disappointed isn't here. So a Microsoft partnership might be a little more rocky, but Sony and Nintendo, they're locked in with Platinum. They're both going to get games from Platinum in the future. Wendy's Koopa's Castle. I think the controversy is it says definitive edition and it should say remaster. I don't even think that should be a controversy. Like, yeah, a definitive edition in many ways would be a remaster. Because if you're taking the same game and just making it better and adding new content to it, that's a definitive edition, and that happens to be a remaster. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think the controversy is that big anyways. Most reactions I see are people are just happy it's here. I don't see a big controversy around the game, personally. To be honest, there's points that it kind of looks better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I know it feels weird saying that, but it does look a little bit better than Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I mean, it's okay. They already sold their copies of Xenoblade 2. They're fine, but getting additional cut content does not make a game a remake. It just means it's getting cut content. That's what makes it a definitive edition. That's got nothing to do with it being a remake. A remake, again, is rebuilding a game from the ground up. The game is not rebuilt from the ground up, so it's not a remake. Ocarina of Time 3D was not a remake. It was a remaster. Twilight Princess HD was also a remaster. They were just reskins. Ocarina of Time 3D is literally the exact same code base. You can actually go into the code base on Ocarina of Time 3D and go into the original N64 code base, and it's like identical 98% of the time. The only differences are the things specific for 3DS. So, yeah, it's not a remake. Ocarina of Time 3D was never a remake. It was always a remaster. They might have called it a remake back then. I'm not sure, but it was a remaster. We also evidence that nobody canceled a Nintendo Switch Online subscription because we got the 20 NES SNES games. when you factor in the game debuted in HD, which is a selling point in its own right, it's only a selling point to people who already like the game. But those people were already buying those games in the past. So like saying, oh, F-Zero's in HD, it's going to sell well. Like, no, that's your mind going, I already like F-Zero, so of course I'll buy an F-Zero in HD. A game being in HD in a world where every game is in HD is not a selling point. I hate to burst your bubble with this. Games being in HD in a world where every game is in HD is not a selling point. It's only a selling point to people who already played that game. So to you, as someone who already liked F-Zero, being on HD is a selling point. But the people who liked F-Zero weren't big enough. There weren't enough people who liked F-Zero to keep F-Zero going in the first place. So just appealing to the people who already like F-Zero isn't good enough. F-Zero has to find a new audience to come back. This is something that you're not understanding because you're not thinking about this from a business perspective. You're thinking about this from a, I want it so it should exist perspective. Oh, if F-Zero's in HD, everyone's going to. No, the people who liked F-Zero are going to want it. A game just being in HD doesn't make people want to buy it. There has to be an interest level, okay? So, as an example, Breath of the Wild being in HD isn't what made people want to buy Breath of the Wild. It might have been a selling point for some people who were fans of Zelda already, but what made people want to buy Breath of the Wild was how great the game was in that of itself. It appealed to a massive audience that Zelda games had not been appealing to. So for F-Zero to come back and actually find an audience, have a 40 million install base, that's irrelevant. Because all these other Switch games have come out to this 40 million install base, and not all of them are selling gangbusters. A lot of them are selling well, but then the sales nosedive, right? So you have to, in order for Nintendo to bring back something like F-Zero, even Kid Icarus, which I thought did well with Uprising, but apparently not well enough. To bring back these games, you have to find a way to appeal to new audiences, not just the old. HD only matters to the old audience, and the old audience wasn't big enough back then to keep it going. So they need to find a way to appeal to a new audience. It can't just be, oh, because so many people own a Switch, they're just going to buy it. That's not how it works. You have to appeal to that audience. And Nintendo right now, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but Nintendo right now doesn't think F-Zero would appeal to the current audience. And maybe they're right. Maybe the current audience goes, hey, Mario Kart's enough. We don't need F-Zero. That's possible. What Nintendo does know, though, is that if they make a Mario Kart 9, it's going to sell 10, 20 million units and make them billions of dollars. That's what Nintendo does know. Nintendo factually knows Mario Kart 9, focus on that, it's going to sell 10 to 20 million units and make them billions. If we make F-Zero, we don't even know if we're going to make our money back. So you have to understand from the business perspective why Nintendo's like, why make F-Zero when any ideas for a racing game can go into Mario Kart that's going to make us billions? It sucks. I agree that it sucks. It really does. I miss Wave Race. Wave Race to me is your F-Zero. I love Wave Race. Everything up through Wave Race 64. Loved all of it. I want Wave Race back terribly. I want Snowboard Kids back terribly. These are two IPs Nintendo owns that used to be fantastic, but it stopped selling. And if they don't have a way to appeal to a new audience, they can't invest the millions of dollars back into that IP to make it again when they don't know the audience is going to be there. When they could take that money, throw it into a different game, in the case of a racing game, Mario Kart, and know they're going to make billions. So it's a pure business decision. It's easy to look at it as, from a business perspective, it would sell like gangbusters. But there's no actual evidence to suggest that's going to happen. That's you living in a fantasy world thinking, oh, it's obviously going to. It's not so obvious. If you're looking at it from a pure business perspective, it's not that obvious. But we'll see. I would love for some of the franchises to come back as well. I don't want to shoot down you enjoying those franchises and wanting them back. I want them back as well. But I think I'm just being a realist on this. I understand from Nintendo's perspective why they're not doing it and why they've consistently said they're not going to do it. We can't do F-Zero unless we have a new idea. Why do they need a new idea for F-Zero? Because the old F-Zero doesn't sell well enough. They need something to attract new gamers. See, the old Zelda still sold well enough to keep making Zelda games. So that even if the new ideas in Breath of the Wild didn't work, it would still sell well enough because it's a Zelda game. F-Zero wasn't selling well enough. That's the bottom line. Kid Icarus wasn't selling well enough. Trying to think of some other, Snowboard Kids stopped selling. It wasn't selling well enough. Wave Race wasn't selling well enough. So you have to do something to get new players to play, and just same game in HD is not good enough. They have to have some ideas, some ways to advertise it, and some new gameplay mechanics in it that are going to attract a new audience. And right now, Nintendo, at least according to them, don't have any new ideas for those franchises. And those franchises don't already sell well enough to keep making them. Because you go, well, why do they need to do that when they just make another Zelda, they make another this, and they're the same game? Because those games are selling well. It's a business thing. It's all business. They feel like they need new ideas because the games aren't selling well enough. Why did they do that crazy, stupid motion control crap in Star Fox Zero? Because Star Fox, as it wasn't selling well enough. They wanted to try something new to try to make Star Fox relevant and sell again. And it failed. Which means you're probably not going to see another Star Fox game, maybe ever. They might never do another Star Fox game. So, it's all business. It's all about money. This is where people think that Nintendo cares so much about the gamers. Nintendo's a business. They're a for-profit, multi-billion-dollar business. They care about the dollar. Anytime you think that company cares about you, they won. The company doesn't care about you. You're a dollar sign to them. They care about how can we keep public perception to be a certain way so people continue to spend money in our games. So they want that public perception that they care about you. So you keep spending $60 a pop on every game they put out. And they keep spending that for years and years and years and years and years. Like, it doesn't mean that Nintendo's a shady company for doing it. It just means they're a business. A for-profit business. For-profit businesses exist to make money. That's the number one priority at Nintendo, is to make money, not to satisfy people. Now, they try to make money by making sure people are satisfied enough to keep buying their products, because that's the business strategy they have chosen. Other companies have chosen to milk money out of as many consumers as they can, even if they lose some. EA. EA milks their consumers, so even when they lose consumers, they just milk the ones they still have even more. 2K is starting to do that now too. But again, that's a different business model. Nintendo's chosen to be, we want to keep people happy so they keep buying our games rather than milking the consumers we do have. So even if we lose some, we're still making a lot of money. Nintendo has chosen so far not to go that route. We'll see what happens in the future. Excuse me. There's plenty they can do. All first-party games are killing it. It all depends on what you consider killing it. Mario Kart 9, as I said, would sell 10 to 20 million units. Easily. F-Zero might break 1 million. That's really good for an F-Zero game. F-Zero games usually don't break 1 million. So that would be awesome. But in comparison to the money they make on Mario Kart 9, wouldn't it be smarter to put the money into Mario Kart 9 instead of putting it into F-Zero? See, this is a thought process. You're not thinking about it from a business perspective. You're thinking, all first-party games. Yeah, all first-party games are breaking 1 million. But if there's an option of money can go into this racing game and break 1 million, or can go into a different racing game that's going to sell 10 to 20, you're going to put it in the racing game that's going to sell 10 to 20. Why would you waste your time on that other racing game? It's not financially smart decision, is basically what I'm trying to say. And this sucks, because there was a time that a game like that was obviously more possible, but games were cheaper to make back then. Let's just be honest with ourselves. Video games used to be dirt cheap to make, so it was easy for Nintendo to have this wide variety of content, because it didn't matter how well the game sold, because the game cost them a few $100 to make at some point. But it's different now. To make a proper HD F-Zero game, it's going to take them $5 to $10 million minimum. And they might make back $40 million in profits or something. Maybe if it breaks 1 million units, or they could take that money and put it into Mario Kart and then, make an extra $200, $300 million. It's all about the business. Gotta remember, Nintendo's about making money. If they thought F-Zero would sell extremely well and make them a lot of money, they would make it. But they don't think it can. They don't think it will. They don't think it's worth the investment. You can disagree with that, but I'm just telling you why Nintendo thinks that. All you got to do is look at the sales data and Nintendo realizing, why would we go that route with a game that people were buying back when we were making it? F-Zero with Mario characters. Well, at that point, it's Mario Kart. So they wouldn't make it F-Zero with Mario characters because they already have a racing game that's with Mario characters. I have so many memories of Wave Race 64, dude. Wave Race 64 was the bomb! I loved Wave... Dude, even Wave Race on the Game Boy. You remember Wave Race on the Game Boy? Oh, that game was baller. By that logic, they would have saved ARMS and would be making it an F-Zero game about fighting with stretchy arms. No. Are you talking to me, Andrew? ARMS is different because it's new IP. Their idea is they could have did Punch-Out with it, right? But Punch-Out, again, isn't selling very well. And they know that. So they figured a new IP, a fresh IP for this idea might be the best route. And it looks like maybe it was. We'll see. I think an ARMS 2 will happen, and ARMS 2 will be very telling on if ARMS was a success. Because ARMS could have been successful just because it came out at the right time on the right platform, or ARMS legitimately has a big fan base of a couple million, and they're going to pick up ARMS 2. Well, I guess we'll wait and find out. We don't really know at this point. But there's risks you take with new IPs as well compared to established IPs. Like Kid Icarus Uprising started out as a new IP, and Nintendo determined that it probably won't sell that well as a new IP, so they put Kid Icarus in it. And I think it sold well in my opinion, but I'm not the one that paid for the game to be made, so it could have been really expensive to make for all we know. Yep, F-Zero was in Nintendo Land, but like that's always like Nintendo Land was a nod to like Nintendo's history, basically. So I don't really count that as meaning much of anything. That's just a Nintendo history nod. A mini game, a side dish. It's easier to do that and throw it in a game mixed with a bunch of other stuff. Nintendo should consider a tiered approach to Switch titles. Ratchet Remake was released for $40. If it were Nintendo, it would be $60, period. Sure, it would be. If Nintendo can go from $4 million with Skyward Sword to $14 million with Breath of the Wild, they can reinvigorate some older IP to follow that same trajectory. They could, but the reason they did that with Zelda is because 4 million copies is still bigger than almost every game we're talking about. 4 million is bigger than Metroid. Skyward Sword was panned as a failure by Nintendo, and it sold more than basically any Metroid game ever has. Just think about that for a second. Skyward Sword was stated publicly by Nintendo to be a sales failure, but it still sold more copies than any Metroid game in the history of the franchise. It's easy for Nintendo to try to reinvigorate a franchise that bare minimum is going to sell 4 million copies. Because the bare minimum, they're going to make money. Than it is to do that to a franchise they were losing money on. It's just much easier to do that with a game that has such a large fan base already. Basically, Zelda had a huge fan base. They just failed to appeal to it. They found a way to appeal, plus bring in new gamers. Ergo. I'm not saying they can't reinvigorate. They could find a way to make F-Zero popular and get a whole new gamer base in. Absolutely. I just don't think they're going to. I don't think Nintendo's going to. I mean, Nintendo would be doing it already if they thought they could do it. That's why they keep saying we need an idea to make it appeal. Breath of the Wild was a culmination of ideas to make it appeal. What Nintendo keeps saying is we need ideas to make these games appeal. Just having HD, just having online play, those aren't new ideas. That's standard. People expect that. If you release a racing game in 2019, it's expected to be in HD, and it's expected to have online play. That's not new. That's not fresh. That's bare bones expectations. You need the actual core gameplay of the game to be something that appeals. It could be a $40 game with lower expectations, but it won't be because Nintendo spends millions to make their games. They're not an indie developer. Nintendo goes all out for basically everything they make. I mean, I would say all out like $200 million. You know, the Breath of the Wild budget was one of the most insane budgets Nintendo's ever had. But the Zelda franchise had earned the right to have that kind of budget. So it wouldn't be anything super insane. But it would still be a decent chunk of change for them to do it. Could they do it? Sure. I mean, they crap out a Kirby game every year. So it's easy to say, oh, instead of crapping out a Kirby game, they should crap out an F-Zero. But do we really want them crapping out an F-Zero game? I think if they brought F-Zero, if they brought Kid Icarus, we'd want them to actually spend time and do it right? Like, we wouldn't want them to rush it. Oh, give us a year and a half and just crap it out like they do Kirby. Like, no, if you're going to bring it back, do it justice. Don't just, give us Kirby Clash. Do the franchise justice. And to do that, it won't be a $40 game. It won't be. It'll have too big of an investment to be a $40 game. I don't think we want it to be that. Do we really want F-Zero to come back as a cash grab? That's what people are asking right now. Do we want it to be a cash grab? If the only way F-Zero can come back is to be a cash grab, do we really want it back? I think we'd want it done right. I wouldn't want some rushed together game that abuses the name to get people to buy it. Because that's what Kirby's become. And it sucks. Being on Switch is the fresh idea. But it's not, because everything on Switch is the same. Being able to take the game anywhere, play it on a bit. But again, that's a standardized feature. Every game that comes on Switch has that standardized feature. So that's not new. That's not fresh. That's the same. That's what you expect of everything. Any game released today is going to be in HD. Any game released on Switch will be playable. Most games released on Switch will be playable portably and on the big screen. Every single multiplayer-oriented game released today will have an online feature. Those are all standard. That's just standard. All you're doing is saying, bring F-Zero back with the standards. That's not good enough. It's not going to sell just by having standard features. It's just not. And Nintendo knows that. Nintendo knows it's not going to sell based with just coming back and having standard features. Not when they have a better game out there in Mario Kart. It has to have a big budget. It has to be done right. And it has to have new, unique features that appeal. There's a billion racing games out there. Why buy this one over them? That's the better question. All these racing games are in HD. All of them have online play. All of them are in HD. The ones that are on Switch are all portable and playable. Why this game over them? That's the big question. Why this game over Fast Racing Neo? Why? What about F-Zero stands out beyond the name F-Zero? They have to do something with the franchise that isn't what they did before, because what they did before didn't work. They have to find something to make it sell today, and Nintendo says we don't have ideas to do it. We just don't. Any ideas we have, go to Mario Kart. Again, Captain Falcon, you're just trying to sell on nostalgia then. You're trying to say nostalgia will sell a new game. But there weren't enough people playing it in the past. So, again, it's one of those conundrums where I'm not saying I don't want the game to exist. I just know why Nintendo's not doing it, and you shouldn't expect them to do it. I wish it was different. I wish Nintendo didn't care about profits and only cared about making people happy. I wish that's the world we lived in. But that's not the world we've ever lived in with Nintendo. They've always been about profits. Always. Kids don't care about justice for old games these days. Well, the thing, new consumers aren't going to care that F-Zero's on the title. They're not going to care. Oh, Nintendo published a game called F-Zero. They're not going to care. They're going to be, why should I care about this racing game compared to the zillions of other racing games that have all the exact same features? Why do I care? See, they care about Mario Kart because Mario Kart's the gold standard of kart racers. The gold standard. There is not a single other kart racer in the world there's not really a single other racing game in the world that matches Mario Kart. So yeah, Mario Kart has this massive gold standard that everything is compared to. Okay. F-Zero will ultimately get compared to Mario Kart. Even more so because it'd be a Nintendo game. And it's not going to stack up well. Now, might it stack up well against Fast Racing Neo? Sure, but Fast Racing Neo has a very small audience. Nintendo doesn't want this game to have a small audience. If they're going to invest, they want a decent audience. They want 2, 3, 4 million people playing this game minimum. How do they appeal to that audience when it didn't exist back when the game was quote-unquote popular? It didn't exist. Bottom line is Nintendo made multiple racing games back in the day, and Mario Kart won out. That's really the bottom line. They made multiple racing games, and Mario Kart won out. And that's why Mario Kart continues to this day. The other games just couldn't compete. They couldn't compete with Mario Kart. So they stopped making them. Good point, actually. I get what you're saying. F-Zero is an easy one to sell these days because of how limited the high-octane, intense racing games are these days. You say that because I agree. Like, how many high-octane, super fast games like that exist these days? But why don't they exist? People don't buy them. The audience isn't big enough. And that's the entire point I've been saying this whole time. Why are there not more racing games like F-Zero out there? Because the audience is too small. It's too niche. Guys, F-Zero is a niche within a niche. Racing games themselves aren't even super popular and super big for most of them. They're mostly niche. And it's a niche within that niche. It's too small. This is why Nintendo hasn't made an F-Zero. I hate to break this news to people. F-Zero games aren't out there because there's not enough people that care about those kind of racing games, that want that kind of experience. When you say, oh, good point, that's the selling point. There isn't a lot of games like it. There's a reason there's not a lot of games like it. Because people don't want to play racing games like that. They get frustrated by it. They get frustrated by the super fast, twitchy racing games. They do. They just do. It's just a fact. They were frustrated by it back in the day. That's why it wasn't selling well. They're even more frustrated by it now. So then why did Mario Kart make it? Mario Kart made it because you don't have that kind of gameplay. It's more of a fun, quirky style gameplay with rubber banding and all this great stuff. It's not twitchy. F-Zero is very much high-speed, twitchy gameplay. And it's a niche that nobody really plays anymore. Now, does that mean that sort of niche can't come back and can't be popular? No, but I'd say it's going to take a new IP, not an old one, to do that. And I don't know that Nintendo has any interest in being that company that does that. Maybe they do someday. But I don't think F-Zero is... I want it to come back. God, I want F-Zero to come back so bad. There's just not enough people that give a crap. I'm glad that we have people in our audience that do, but not enough of us. There just isn't. Nintendo does make small games with a small profit goal. Sushi Striker as an example. Sure. And Sushi Striker is a pretty good game. I like Sushi Striker a lot. But here's the thing. F-Zero is a multiplayer racing game. Sushi Striker is a single player experience. Okay? It's a single player experience where the most amount of action there is 1v1. That's not how it works in F-Zero. F-Zero is a multiplayer racing game. What kind of budget do you think it's going to take? Do you think a Sushi Striker budget is going to make a proper F-Zero game? I'm just very curious. Do people honestly think an indie-like budget is going to make a proper F-Zero game? And you can be like, well, look at Fast Racing Neo. Yeah, and it's still not good enough. It didn't sell well enough. In fact, it sold so poorly we haven't seen a bunch of them since. So what's it going to take to make a proper F-Zero? We have to ask ourselves that question. What will it take monetary-wise to make a proper F-Zero? And then how many copies does it need to sell? Here's the thing. Sushi Striker was a nice small niche game they made. Didn't sell very well, and they're never making another one. So is that what we want to happen? If we're going to bring up Sushi Strikers, do we want a tiny budget, give it to it, where we basically end up with Fast Racing Neo starring Captain Falcon? It doesn't sell well, and then we never see an F-Zero game again. If they're going to bring F-Zero back, what would you rather have? Them put a small budget on it, have the game totally flop, and then never see it come back again? Or if they're going to come back, would you like to see them do it right, at least give it some sort of budget, and then actually be able to see a full realization of what F-Zero can actually be? I think it has a much higher chance of success if they actually put their full effort into it and don't treat it like an indie game. Because every game that Nintendo treats that way seems to die. I don't know if you've realized this. Every game they kind of treat with an indie budget, it dies. They stop. They don't make them anymore because they don't sell well enough. The profit margins are too low. There's bird poo on my shoulder. No, there isn't. Nice try though. Any word on what time the SNES games will be available? I heard they'll be available in like 3 or 4 hours, but it could be tonight. I don't know. Sometime today. What if Ubisoft took what they developed in Starlink Battle for Atlas, added FO characters, and made a track, water, and sky racing game similar to Diddy Kong Racing? Oh, people are dreaming. Yeah, Sushi Striker was an indie game. Yep. Nintendo just funded it, but it was an indie game. What time are the SNES games launching? Later today. I don't know when. Yeah. I honestly wish I knew. But Nintendo hasn't been very forthcoming in giving an exact time. Just different people who are trying to like hack in Nintendo's online and kind of figure it out. As I said, I think it's like 5 or 6 p.m. Central. But it could be later. I don't know. I wish Nintendo would have gave us a time during the Direct. I'd argue Twitchy gameplay is more popular today than when F-Zero released. Twitchy gameplay is popular today in games involve killing other people. So Twitchy shooters, as an example. Twitchy racing games are a completely different beast because the idea with Twitchy racing games is you make a minor mistake with your Twitch movement and you basically ruin your entire race. You can make a mistake in Fortnite and not ruin your entire match. F-Zero is not very forgiving of mistakes. It's not very user-friendly. It's not very casual-friendly. And that's something that works kind of against F-Zero. Mario Kart is extremely casual-friendly. F-Zero is not. And even the games that are twitchy gameplay are very casual-friendly. F-Zero is not. F-Zero is very hardcore. You cannot make a single mistake if you want to win that race. At least, on what I consider difficulties people should be bothering with. Obviously, if you're on like the easiest possible difficulty, then whatever. But and Chubbs brings up a good point too. Like, sure, twitchy gameplay is more popular, but is racing games are still not that bad. If you look at the sales of racing games today, they're not really any better than they were back then. Racing hasn't grown. Besides Mario Kart. Mario Kart's been the one game that's kind of consistently shown some growth, but racing games on the whole are just kind of, they're there. People play them. People that like them are really into them. Like people who play Forza, they are really into Forza. But the audience still isn't that big. You'd be like, well, then why do they keep making them? Well, because, the audience is big enough to be profitable, so someone's going to make a game. So, like, Mario Kart, Mario Kart's its own outlier, arcadey, fun, like, Mario Kart's its own beast. I don't think it's fair to compare anything to Mario Kart besides other kart racers, like Crash Team Racing or Sonic Team Racing or something like that. Like, those are kart racers. They should be compared to Mario Kart. But Forza compared to Mario Kart's not fair. Stuff like that. Drive Club compared to Mario Kart, that's not fair. But racing games are just not, are not really a big selling IP in the first place, but they're ones that require a pretty big investment. So I'm glad that racing games are still around. Let's just put it that way. I was worried there was a brief moment in the early 2000s. I was worried that racing games are going to go away because they just weren't selling very well, but I was wrong and they came back. And I might be wrong on this, and Nintendo might make a new F-Zero game next year. I have no idea. None of us know what's going on at Nintendo. I just know why Nintendo's not doing things. Because it's obvious. It's all right there. The financials are all out there. The sales data is all out there. We can see financially why Nintendo is making the choices they do. But we don't ever know what Nintendo's really doing behind closed doors. They could have a new F-Zero, a new Snowboard Kids, a new Wave Race, a new Kid Icarus, all releasing in the next 2 years. They could. We have no idea. We don't. Nintendo does what they want to do when they want to do it. And that's kind of the way Nintendo's always been. So. AC3 must have done well enough to bring over AC4 and AC Rogue. Potentially, but given that AC4 was announced, I mean, AC3 Remastered has been on Switch, I mean, not even 6 months. So the thing is I think AC4 and Rogue were already being ported to Switch before they had any sales data for AC3. Basically, when AC3 released on Switch, they were already porting AC4. So I don't know that AC3 sales data had anything to do with AC4 and AC Rogue coming over because, again, to announce those games now and release them when they're releasing means they were already being ported to Switch while AC3 was coming out. So I think they already committed to those games before they even knew anything. Now, the question is, after AC4 and Rogue, after AC3, are we going to get any more Assassin's Creed games in the future? I think the sales data will determine that. Will AC4 and Rogue, will AC3, will they have sold well enough to bring more Assassin's Creed to Switch? That I don't know. I don't remember who the original development team of F-Zero GX was. I don't remember the team who did Super Monkey Ball, if I'm being honest. Sega, I think, were the ones that did. Well, I know Super Monkey Ball is a Sega game. But, Rogue Squadron 2. God. Don't get me started on Rogue Squadron games. Mario Kart is like Overwatch, is like Paladins, is like Crash Team Racing, is like Smash Bros. A lot of weird, random, chance-based situation games. Sure. Sega did GX too. F-Zero GX. Cool. Yeah, no joke. I see it. There's no bird poop. There's no birds in my house. There's literally nothing on my shirt. I can literally see it on the camera right here. It's just gray. I mean, there's white light coming down. There's no bird poop. New Pikmin is supposed to be amazing. It'd be nice if we got one. The direct was disappointing in that Capcom is throwing Devil May Cry 2 at us. Hopefully future ports aren't dependent on that selling well. I know, people are always worried because Devil May Cry 2 is widely considered the worst of the whole Devil May Cry series. But anyways, this stream ran about a half hour later than I expected. That's all right because there's no Prime News coming today. So it's all good. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Joe Prosco, cannot thank you enough, man. That $50 donation was insane. Corey Bohm as well with his $1.51, aka $2 Canadian. I appreciate that. Couple questions left here, and then we're gonna end this here. 11910 Black Ops says, "What kind of mic do I use?" I use the AT2035 Audio Technica mic, and I run it through a mixer / power. It provides power and does the mixing because this is a mic that needs to be powered. And I run it through the Xenix 1202 mixer. And then with a XLR cable, because all the really nice microphones use XLR cables. You can get nice USB mics like Blue Yetis and stuff. But the top quality audio mics are going to be XLR. And then from the mixer, it actually runs through the line-in port on the back, which is a little bit higher quality than, say, a microphone port, with a 3.5 millimeter converter. So it's not perfect. It would be higher quality if I had an actual sound card, because if you have an actual sound card, they have higher quality audio ports I could plug in. So basically, right now, the limitation of my audio quality is not the mic, it's not the mixer. It's that I don't have a separate sound card on my computer that can handle higher quality audio signals. But that's all right. I think it does a pretty good job personally. As long as the mic's not too far away. Like sometimes in some of my videos, like when I did Prime News the other day, my microphone was like 6 feet away from me. And you could tell that there must have been some distance between me and my mic if you listen to the Prime News audio. And then you listen to the stream audio where the mic is right here. This is where you're going to get the highest quality audio, is the mic right here. The mic was a little too far away. I have a different microphone stand I'm going to use to try to make it better for Prime News, but I just, for some reason, I didn't use it last time, and I'm not exactly sure why I made that decision. It was a bad decision, but that's all right. Let's see here. The Ezio collection hasn't come over yet. Dude, the Ezio collection, I'm very surprised. That's a lot of people consider that the best collection of AC games. The worst in the series isn't the worst in the world because Skyward Sword. So I don't think Skyward Sword's the worst game in the series, anyways. It's not even the worst selling Zelda game. Okay, cool. I think that's it. I think that's everything. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been awesome. It's been real, and I will see you guys probably in a standalone video tomorrow. And if not, then the podcast releases over the weekend as well. So you'll definitely see me in that. Otherwise, see you on Monday when we do our next live stream at noon. And then we get Prime News and everything rolling on Monday. So thank you guys for tuning in. It's been real. Peace out.